Hello. What's up? Can y'all tell me if you can hear me or not? How's everybody doing? I guess we'll give it another couple minutes. I know it's Friday, so like people probably have stuff to do, but um yeah, I mean this one's crazy. This is a crazy this one's good, man. I'm telling you. It's based on some recent news and I'm super excited, to do this. And it's just me. Cosmo's not up here biting my toes, which is kind of good, as for now at least. And hope everyone's been good. Hey, Wolfie, what's up? You had to reload? You talking about Texas and you're reloading? How are you doing today? He can hear you down here, though. Oh my god. No shit, he is probably gonna come up here. Anyway, yeah. Just some housekeeping stuff to get out of the way. This doesn't apply to anyone on here, but if you're listening to this on podcast, thank you so much. We live stream all these episodes, and if you want to watch the live stream, you can go to patreon.com/talkmurder. All that support goes to Jen, our co-host, who is an educator and doesn't, makes educator pay in South Carolina, which is probably nothing. So I'm gonna start promoting that again, and that's how you can watch us on live stream. If you want to comment and just be part of the story, I have a really good doozy, I called it today, and I'm excited. Sort of. It's I don't know. You guys got to tell me what you guys think of this episode. As far as do you believe it, but we'll get to it. Anyway, I don't know. You guys think you guys ready to go on this, or you guys want to wait for some more people, or what are you guys thinking right now? Ready. That's all I need to know right there. All right, well, I'm going to kind of go on then. Let's do this, man. Let's get right to it. This this is crazy. So here's where we're going to tonight. And you may know this story sort of. This may sound familiar to you. Okay? But there is recent news about it, and we're covering the story before we cover the recent news. Because I could just tell you what the news is right now. Blah. But that's not the fun. That's not the fun. There's no fun in that. So we're gonna tell you exactly the story, and then we're going to tell you the news. Anyway, this is where we're going to tonight. This is Aldgate Street, Aldgate High Street, and this is in London. Has anyone been here? Kind of go around here a little bit, see if you guys can tell what we're talking about tonight. This sort of around here in London, and in London, this part of London, especially in 1888 is where we're going. Everyone was drunk on gin. Everyone drank gin. Gin is vodka with juniper, I believe. So we watched this show called Master Distiller, and they actually did a gin. So we watched a show called Master Distiller. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I know about gin just from watching this episode last night, right? Gin can be made from any base spirit. So whether it can be made from Just gin can be made from corn or rye or white corn or corn. I mean, it could be made from anything. And then the only difference between gin and vodka is juniper and other botanicals, which I cannot name except the juniper. Am I close there? Is that sum up gin? No, gin, Gen, gin, Gen, the drink, Gen. All right, this is the River Thames. I'm just kidding. I know that's the River Thames. Okay. And, yeah. Let me go over here right quick. Let me show you this. All right, so here's where we're going to tonight. And does anyone know this story if I scroll over a little bit? I don't want to give it away. Well, I just saw it. Now I don't know where it's at. All right, we're not going to give it away. All right, here we go. We're going to... Actually, let me show you the street here. I'm gonna show you this. I'm gonna show you some stuff. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get in on it. Man, we're gonna get it tonight. I'm telling you, we're getting it hard tonight. We're gonna do some things tonight. This is gonna be a crazy case. And let me pull this up right quick. So here's the street. This is the street we're going to. It's Jack to me. Anything London is Jack to me. Yeah, Jack. It's nice to have a nice Jack once in a while. I mean, Jack like jackhammer. That was stupid. All right. We're going to September 29th / September 30th. Obviously, we cut in at around midnight. But I'm actually starting this at 8:30 p.m. That street that I was talking about, the street that I just showed you, Aldgate High Street. This is in 1888. This is under London's sulfurous gas lights. Gas lights, I don't know if you've ever been to like a historic city that still has gas lights. I think Charleston still has them. I don't know if they use real gas though. No, they definitely don't. Those are electric. They're just for show. But there's got to be a weird smell there. I mean, going to like in 1888. No, Charleston is not gas. There's no way. That'd be stupid. They're electric. It would be so inefficient to have gas right there. And kind of dangerous, too. They could literally just blow up and put someone's eye out. Anyway, but I don't know. Yeah, but they have gas lanterns, but I'm telling you, in Charleston, they're fake. They're like electric. I don't know. It's got to be kind of a weird smell vibe going on. Where we're going to I don't want to give away. Where we're going to is kind of a shady part of town. There's a lot of poverty and there's a lot of drunkenness and there's a lot of unfortunates, homeless people sleeping on the street, people having sex on the street. It's nasty, it's dirty. We're talking about London as a whole. Not much has changed. But it's nasty and dirty. Plus, you're pretty close to the Thames. And just that smell alone. I mean, I think I saw a statistic before. There's apparently been like 10,000. There's at least 10,000 bodies that have been thrown into the Thames since the last century. Anyway, so, right. But other than the gas lights, which don't give off a lot of light, this part of town especially is extremely dark. The homes and the apartments there at 8:30, they may be burning gas, or they may be burning like a lantern to read or something like that, but they don't have much illuminating light. The whole place is dark, and we're talking about cobblestone streets, and there's horse shit. You know, the police constables are using horses. Regular people are using horses. Where we're going, there's actually a stable really close by. It's just a lot of... It's just nasty, in my mind at least. We're talking about a 46-year-old woman from Wolverhampton. Her name is Catherine Eddowes. Now, if you know this story, don't give it away. But this 46-year-old woman, like a lot of other unfortunate women at this time, had spiraled into this life of no employment, hustling for money, taking johns, being drunk on gin all day, not having somewhere to sleep most nights. Some nights, if they had the money, they'll put up for a room. But she is just in the worst of ways. Plus, she's 46. Let me actually tell you about her background just really quick. I just want to see if I can humanize her just a little bit for you, because she actually has a pretty depressing sort of background here. She was a woman on the streets, quote, this from one of the police reports, trading trinkets for gin. Trinkets is like little beads and stuff that she would trade. She had a common law husband, but he didn't really care for her. He threw her out, actually. And then he would claim that, quote, she went to pawn my boots for supper and never came back. She was habitually drunk. She did bear 3 children at one point, but they were all dead by adulthood. So she's just living a miserable life altogether. And on September 29th at 8:30, she's already drunk, spiraled out into this gin-soaked squalor, and she is wandering around Whitechapel. This is Jack. I don't know what you're talking about, Wolfie. Okay? I don't know what you're talking about. She has been known to be loud and have a foul mouth. I did see one report where every time a fire truck would go by, she would make fun of it and try to mimic the sound, and that would kind of get loud. But everyone knew that she was just loud, drunken, and just foul. She had a foul mouth. She'd be quick to tell you off if she doesn't get her way. She would tell the police off. She wouldn't give her real name. She would just kind of wander around the streets. And that was just her life. And on this night, just like any other night, she was out on town and she was drunk. In fact, she got so drunk and so loud that a crowd started to form around her because they knew that, she was probably going to get arrested or do something stupid or fall and bust her ass, which she did. She fell right on the cobblestone streets, and she's looking up at all these men who are in their suits and stuff, looking at her, looking down at her, and she's calling them all kinds of names. She's saying, "What you looking at, you old cock?" and stuff like that. And she is just being who she is. A crowd starts to form, and the police don't like that, so the police constable, 2 of them actually, police constables Lewis Robinson, finds her outside on the ground. Her face is flush with gin. She is beyond drunk, and him and his colleague George Simmons picked her up and hauled her to the police station. Come on with me, you old hag. Get on out of here. You're causing a scene. When they got to the police station, they asked for her name, and she said her name was, quote, nothing, end quote. They tossed her in cell number 5 and told her to sleep it off. Luckily for them, she did kind of fall asleep quickly. She's drunk, so they didn't hear much from her. And let me see. Sorry, guys. I know I stopped in the middle, but I'm trying to get my notes. And at midnight, a police constable, George Hutt, who took over the shift, wrote in his notes that she was, quote, fast asleep and breathing heavily. Her body slumped over, resting against the cold stone walls of the prison cell, and she's just... But hey, that is so much better than what she was yelling out on the streets, right? And as long as she's just sleeping it off, they could deal with a little bit of snoring. I'm sure that these police who had to pick her up, her body up off the cobblestone streets, were thinking, because this isn't the first time they had to pick her up, and not only her, but others like her, and it's just over and over. And it's like, why? This is really my life, having to babysit. I'm sure they were thinking, man, I wish someone would do something about women like this, women of the night, who prostitute themselves and ruin marriages, spread diseases, get drunk and pass out and make public and become public nuisance and become public. Oh, fuck. Shit. Sorry. They're thinking, I wish someone would do something about this. These women of the night, they're spreading their disease. They're out in public. They're causing a scene. They're a public nuisance. Not only that, I'm the one who has to pick her up from the floor where she's making a scene, and she's calling me names and hurling all these insults at me. I wish someone would step up and take care of women like this around this town, this sleepy town known as Whitechapel. Well, someone was doing that. In fact, by this point, that someone, who has been known by many names, but most known by Jack the Ripper, has already took care of 3 of these types of ladies. And maybe it's just a matter of time. I don't know. I'm sure they didn't want him to kill her, but, It's now midnight, and she's checked up on again. She's still snoring. The constable's trying to be choose his steps wisely. He doesn't want to wake her up because he doesn't want to hear her anymore. But sure enough, at 12:15, that snoring stops, and her raspy voice can be heard throughout the precinct. Hey, when can I leave? When you're sober, shut your damn trap. By 1 a.m., he couldn't stand it anymore. And you know what? I don't care. You're drunk, whatever. Get out of here. Don't cause a scene tonight. Get out. Do not make me come arrest you again, because you will not get out. She responded when he asked her name again. She responded with the name this time, although it being the wrong one. She said her name was Mary Ann Kelly of 6 Fashion Street. He told her to get out, and she responded, "Good night, you old cock." She vanishes into the fog. She turned down Houndsditch Street, where her footsteps were echoing in the empty street. Now, at this time, the police were out looking for Jack the Ripper because they knew he was coming back. This is when the press started really ramping up. And surely Jack was starting to get confident and he wanted to put on a good show. So they knew he was going to be out. What Catherine Eddowes didn't realize is that she had purposely avoided a crowd that was forming down the street. There were police constables there already. There were news folk there. Now, this is 1 a.m. in the morning. She purposely avoids this crowd. She had no idea what they were doing there, but she knows she doesn't want to be anywhere near those police constables. Let me show you exactly what these police were looking at. This is 1 o'clock a.m. One second, guys. Let me, I usually have the photos, but one second, guys. I usually have the photos, but we're working all day, so I didn't put the photos together, although I did put the story together. So let me just go and grab some photos real quick. All right. Oh, fuck. From National Geographic, they want me to fucking put my credit card in there. Yeah, no thanks. Catherine Eddowes purposely avoided a street that the police and the newspaper men were already down. She had no idea why they were down there. She just didn't want to be anywhere near them. The reason they were down there is because they found this woman. This was around 1 a.m. when they discovered the mutilated body of a one Elizabeth Stride. Let me show you what she looked like prior to that. You see what she looks like here. And scrolling down, you can see her again right here. You see her throat is cut. Now, she's dead. She is definitely dead. And they know who did it. Jack the Ripper did it. However, this one seemed rushed. Okay. As you're about to find out. Elizabeth Stride, Jack the Ripper had already killed her just minutes before. It's 1 a.m. This is why the crowd is forming. She had a neckerchief around her throat. It was yanked backwards. She was killed instantly. Her throat was cut 6 inches, so precisely that it actually missed her. It severed her carotid It severed her carotid artery, but missed the spinal cord. So it was obviously done in a rush, but by someone who knew what he was doing. At 1:35 a.m., Catherine Eddowes passed Church Passage Street. She walked past a police constable, Edwards Watkins, who just got on duty, and he was patrolling the Mitre Square. A salesman by the name of Joseph Laundy was last to see Catherine Eddowes alive, and of course a shifty-looking man with a pulled-down hat and a trench coat like following behind her. She had no idea he was this close following behind her. That's the last person who ever saw Catherine Eddowes alive. Now, this is minutes, not even an hour after Jack the Ripper mutilated, although hastily, Elizabeth Stride, which I showed you. At this point, Catherine Eddowes is 8 minutes away from her brutal, brutal death. That's 480 seconds, 136 breaths, no goodbyes, no more drunken nights flushed on gin, no more sleeping in the cold streets, no more meeting Johns for a quick wank. She has 8 more minutes of her life. Police Constable Edwards Watkins pointed his bullseye lantern down this street where he was patrolling, and like I said, even though there were gas lights and lanterns being used, it was still really dark. There's a warehouse, and down the alley of this warehouse is where this police constable points his lantern until, walking on the cobblestones, sweeping his lantern across to make sure everything's on board, until he comes across what he thinks, or what he soon finds, is a human figure, a silhouette of a figure. You guys like this? You guys still with me? I'll show you the image of what happened to Catherine Eddowes. And it is almost beyond comprehension. As far as true crime photos goes, it is one of the worst. It is the most brazen and the most gruesome of all of Jack the Ripper's. Well, besides the one that he displayed the organs like he was Hannibal Lecter, but this one so far is the most horrific. And you got to remember, not even an hour ago, we have Elizabeth Stride, the third of Jack the Ripper's victims, who was cut ear to ear, but as you saw the photo, she got away lucky. I mean, she's dead instantly, but what it seems like is he was interrupted, and she was screaming. There was a witness that did hear 3 screams. He was interrupted, and now, not even an hour later, he is brazenly going to take a second victim, but this time he's going to take his time. In fact, you're going to see the photo, and it's horrific. And just remember that the medical examiner said that he had up to 9 minutes to do his work without being interrupted. When Dr. Frederick Gordon Brown arrived promptly at 2 a.m., about 18 minutes from the time that Jack the Ripper's blade punctured the undercarriage of Catherine Eddowes' left ear, her carotid artery was so precisely cut that the vertebrae had been completely spared of any damage. Jack the Ripper, what they thought, they never caught the murder weapon, but and I've done this story before. So obviously, let me break this down. We are covering a part of Jack the Ripper. The reason I'm covering this story now is because apparently he has finally been named. Jack the Ripper's identity has finally been conclusively named. A person has been matched to DNA. DNA has been taken from a crime scene and confirmed, albeit not very well, as we'll get to. But that's the reason I'm doing this story. This is kind of a headline news. Jack the Ripper's identity is finally confirmed. Okay. It is confirmed from DNA from this crime scene, from Catherine Eddowes' crime scene, which is why I'm doing this story, so you can see exactly where the DNA comes from. All right. So that is why I'm doing that. If you are interested in Jack the Ripper and the complete story, I've covered that. I got like 7 episodes, and I even went beyond that and covered the torso mutilations that were found in the Thames that many people think were Jack the Ripper, but would never be known. And there was a couple torsos that were found in the Thames right before Jack the Ripper. I mean, I'm talking about weeks before, and that's right down the street. So, I mean, I covered it. I covered my bases pretty good with Jack the Ripper. All right. So, if you want to listen to that, go back and listen to those episodes. Anyway, that's the reason we're covering this. All right. Her carotid artery was so precisely cut that the vertebrae had been completely spared of any damage. So, I know I keep saying this, but it is nighttime and it is pitch black. And not only that, that London fog is a real thing. So Jack the Ripper, to do this so precisely, if you think about it, is a pinnacle achievement. Many people are like, oh, he's kind of amateurish, this or whatever. He is not holding a lamp and doing this. It is pitch black, and he is cutting the throat so precisely that he's sparing the vertebrae on purpose is exceptional. He is completely in the dark doing this. Catherine's face was mutilated, which I'm going to show you. The doctor, Dr. Gordon Brown, even lifted up the, quote, triangular flaps of skin that were peeled from her cheeks. Just like the skin was peeled up and they were in triangular flaps. Only part of her nose remained on her face, as you'll see in the photo. And actually, let me show you the photo now because I can show it to you without sparing the worst part of it. All right. This is Catherine Eddowes. This is who we're talking about now. As far as crime scene photos go, that's pretty bad. She's been worked on. You see, she has only a quarter of her nose left. I think she's missing a lip. And you see the triangular flaps that I was talking about on her cheeks. You could lift those things up like gills. That's pretty bad, Anyway, that's not even the worst thing. He had up to 9 minutes to take his time on it. Now, for the doctor, who is a seasoned doctor, he's been doing this for 30 years, albeit not gruesome crimes like this, but he's covered murders and this, that, and the other, And I know the pressure's on at this point because this is a gruesome mutilation. But that doctor became nauseous, and it wasn't that grotesque look on Catherine's face that you just saw, like she's just seen a phantom and was powerless to do anything about it. It's not her nose being half severed off her face. It's not her fingers that were still involuntarily twitching, trying to rid its body of every last vestige of blood. Is not that was making him sick. It's not the smell of the heavy iron all running all over the doctor's shoes that's making him nauseous. One of the police rookies actually lost his dinner seeing the crime scene. And you saw it, but it's not any of that made them nauseous and even vomit. It's the fact, and this is so bad that they didn't photograph it, but they did put it in the police report. It was so bad. Her intestines had been cut out of her body and were draped over her shoulder. Her large intestine. Look at the photo again. This is a severed mark straight down the clavicle area. You tell me why they chose not to show anything below this. Tell me what that looked like. Not to show anything below this. Look how deflated her skin is. At this point, she is void. She is void of any intestines in her body. Her large intestine was draped over her right shoulder. Her smaller intestine was pulled out like someone's, like if you go to like a children's party with a clown and they're like pulling out those handkerchiefs. Look at all these colored handkerchiefs. That's what her intestines were. They were just scattered all over the ground, getting in that dirt and that horse shit and those cobblestone streets, just all dirty. It was just laying there. What's interesting also is her right leg, she was propped up against the alley wall. Her right leg was twitched open on purpose. Jack actually pushed her leg open so he has room to work. They also found something extremely different than they would ever imagine. If anyone had to write a story about, let's make it the worst brutal thing ever, that no one would ever be able to come up with this. Her left kidney had been removed. Nowhere to be found. Her right one was nicked, so I guess he's not that great of a surgeon. Not only that, Catherine Eddowes' uterus was completely missing. A trophy, perhaps. Now, the kidney is really interesting. Why you would take a kidney. And I will tell you, I've been doing, I'm working on this podcast now. I'm really excited about it, but it goes like into biblical things, into like old scripture, biblical events. Anyway, from that, I know how important the kidney, the human kidney is. There's a lot of verses in the Bible that mention the kidney as a specific organ and its symbolic meaning. For instance, in Job 16:13, quote, "Without mercy, he splits my kidneys open. He pours my gall on the ground." I thought that quote, that verse was so appropriate for this episode. Her uterus was also missing. The kidney, what I was trying to say is, it's symbolic in Christianity as the life force. So thoughts, emotions, and consciousness is basically the soul. Is the kidney, is how the Bible looks at it. They use it as a metaphor all the time, as like an organ that's very symbolic. So it's weird that he took a kidney, because why would you? This has never happened before, I mean, and if I doubt it has happened before. Like, no one, I mean, were there serial killers like this that did that? I mean, I guess so. You hear about the old kings and stuff that killed all these young boys just to drink their blood. And what's her name, who would bathe in the blood? I can't remember that old queen. I mean, so I guess, but it was so random. And the uterus too. The uterus, you can kind of tell that it makes sense that this guy has a hatred against women, especially women of the night. So maybe, but the kidney is just kind of weird. So like I said, his work was so professional and accurate, and a medical examiner said that his mutilation suggested that he was undisturbed for up to 9 minutes. And but how is this possible? He just killed someone. Did he do it? Was this a random thing, or did he need a kidney that night? Did he need the uterus that night? Was he so fixated on getting this that, the first murder, it was like rushed and didn't work. So he just ran over to the first victim and brazenly did this with cops walking around. How did no one hear this? There were police constables walking around. Perhaps they had tunnel vision and would never think that he would do 2 in a row. You know what I'm saying? Because who would? Maybe that worked for him. I don't know. George Morris, who worked in the warehouse that was adjacent to this in the street, said he heard nothing. Quote, "Had she screamed, I'd have heard it," he would later testify. So, that's the story of Catherine Eddowes. Now, we're going to get into, real quick, the DNA. The DNA, and dude, I'm going to say this word once, and then I'm going to use a different word, but I'm not good at pronouncing words, but apparently Catherine Eddowes was wearing a shawl. She was wearing a shawl. God damn it. Shawl. Fuck. Catherine Eddowes was wearing a scarf. Shawl. Okay, what was I saying? Shawl. So Catherine Eddowes was wearing a Catherine Eddowes was wearing a shawl. So Catherine Eddowes was wearing a shawl. And now apparently she was. And that's what they have the DNA on, which is going to find out is kind of weird because the DNA was actually, I was thinking of a word for it. It was semen DNA, but it's Semitic. Is Semitic. Semenetic DNA. The DNA on the DNA on the scarf was Semenetic. God damn it, man! What the fuck? The DNA semenetics. The DNA on the scarf was semen DNA. In 9 minutes, though, in 9 minutes, you telling me that this guy cut out a kidney, a uterus, sliced her from ear to ear, cut off her nose, up to 9 minutes, probably more like 6, and he had time to get semen on it? Yeah, but I mean, it's cold in London. What he must did he? I'm just gonna be. This may sound disgusting, but what did he pull his dick out? I don't know, man. It's just we're gonna get to it. I don't think it solves anything at all, but we'll get to it. Talking about the kidney again, real quick. 2 weeks after Catherine Eddowes was slaughtered by Jack the Ripper, George Lusk of the Whitechapel Vigilance Committee. He's the guy who was like a private citizen, a wealthy financier or something. He started this Whitechapel Vigilance Committee. They never really solved anything, but they were just kind of like, ooh, look at us. We're going to solve this. And they never did. Anyway, he received a small box. In the box, preserved in ethanol, lay half of Catherine Eddowes' kidney. An accompanying, God damn it. A note also found inside the box read the following, and this is the famous note, right, from Jack the Ripper. A lot of people say that it's not legit, but it seems like most sources would call it legit. I'm going to show you the letter right now. It's called the From Hell letter. And I'm just going to lie. I'm just going to be honest. This thing's fucking cool, man. As far as, I hope they didn't. Dude, you can't. Why identify this guy, man? Like, come on, dude. You're ruining it for effing everyone. This is the From Hell letter. It says, Mr. Lusk, sir, I send you. Well, you see it right there. Let me just go back so I can read it. I send you half the kidney I took from one woman, preserved it for you. The other piece I fried and ate it, and it was very nice. Catch me when you can, Mr. Lusk. All right, let's talk about this guy, Aaron Kosminski, the Polish barber who apparently is the guy who is Jack the Ripper from what everyone's saying. Let me show you his mug right now. Oh, it's not Aaron, it's Aaron. Sorry. Aaron Kosminski. You see him right here. It's a pretty good photo. Let me show you. It's this guy. That's Aaron. It's a composite drawing. This is the Sherarl right here that she was wearing. This is the historian Russell Edwards. This had both blood and semen DNA on it. The blood was from one of Catherine Eddowes' relatives, and the semen was not from Kosminski, though. We're about to get into it. It's actually pretty inaccurate. I will tell you right now, this would not ever hold up in any court. That's how... It's more of a interesting thing, but you cannot say it for certain is Jack the Ripper. Anyway, in 2007, an amateur historian, Russell Edwards, bought a silk shawl that was allegedly found near Catherine Eddowes' body. Now, allegedly, in any police report, does not mention this shawl at all, y'all. No shawl at all, y'all. For real. What apparently happened is one of the police constables who had a morbid fascination took the scarf, put it in his pocket, and had kind of a crime scene trophy. Okay. That's a big problem with the evidence because you can't actually trace it to that, right? It was never in police custody. It was never protected against anything. It was never handled with gloves. It was never written up. It was just passed around and sold to multiple people. This guy, this amateur historian, is not the first one to have it. It's been sold around through private collectors for 136 years. He commissioned a Dr. Jari Luhalian from Liverpool and John Moore's from Liverpool, John Moore's University, and Dr. David Miller of Leeds to use mitochondrial DNA, which I'm not a geneticist or whatever, but I did find out that mitochondrial DNA is less accurate, way less accurate than regular DNA, apparently. So he identified two profiles, one matching one of Eddowes' descendants and another from a previous suspect, a Polish barber named Aaron Kosminski. Okay. It didn't match specifically to this guy, but it matched a distant relative of his. The semen did. Although this doctor claimed that it was a 100% match of his DNA. And that became a big problem because when this was a real study that other doctors could look at and criticize and critique, and that's what they did. They said it's not a 100% match. There's plenty of problems with it. Number one, the shawl was never mentioned in any police reports. It was circulated through private collectors, no gloves. It was exposed to contamination risk. Both Kosminski's and Eddowes' descendants were present in 2007 during the analysis, which also risked a contamination of the evidence. Mitochondrial DNA is not an exact match, but matches with thousands or more that share the same downline lineage as Kosminski, right? The 100% match is debunked. This is from another doctor he says it is debunked as a nomenclature error with the haplotype 315.1C present, which is the thing that they use, this haplotype, whatever, present in 99% of Europeans. So he is saying that there's no way, number one, it would never hold up in court, but just to identify him, it is interesting that on the plus side, that Kosminski had been a previous suspect, although he was never mentioned in police reports, but was mentioned 6 years after the Jack the Ripper murders in a private correspondence between two police officers involved in the case. Although it's funny because let me, one second. Let me, all right. Why Kosminski? He lived minutes from all the murder sites. He had a paranoid delusion about women, and barbers at the time, if you guys didn't know this, they also practiced amateur surgery, like teeth removal, for instance. So he would have had some knowledge with surgery, but let me see. Kosminski's relatives are actually protesting this whole thing. It's kind of funny because the relatives of both Eddowes, just last week, Eddowes' relatives petitioned the Metropolitan Police to reopen the case on this evidence. However, Kosminski's relatives say the following, quote, "You can't defame a dead man with flawed science." That's pretty interesting, right? So I doubt they're going to reopen the case and name him as the killer or whatever, because yeah, you have Catherine Eddowes' family that wants justice, but you also have Kosminski's relatives and his descendants in the downline who are now being, they think their great uncle, great grandpa, whatever, is some kind of serial killer. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of effed up if you think about it. Anyway, so that's the news. This guy was a Polish immigrant, 23 years old, and he did have mental illness. He did have, quote, homicidal tendencies, and they did survey him and his brother in 1888, but he was never charged. In 1891, schizophrenia landed him in an asylum where he died in 1919. So, I mean, what do you guys think? Dude, this is like, honestly, it's the same thing as the Zodiac Killer. Every couple years it comes out some new bullshit, and it's like the one, right? And every every 3 years. It's like the Zodiacs. The Zodiac's definitely been identified. Yeah, yada yada. It's just these people like this historian, which he's probably. I mean, I'm not talking bad about him, but he's just he's looking for fame and story here, and he got this thing, and or the Black Dahlia killer. Like literally every year, there's a new book about that. I don't know. What do you guys think? It is interesting that the mitochondrial DNA did match one of his downline descendants, but then again, this other guy, and I don't know about mitochondrial DNA. I don't know about any of this shit, honestly. I don't know how it works. I don't know how accurate it is. A lot of scientists say it's extremely inaccurate, and this test should be completely thrown out. You gotta keep in mind that the guy, the historian with this evidence, he paid for this lab work. I mean, he's trying to get the best bang out of his buck, right? He's trying to have a movie deal from Netflix. He's trying to have a book fucking published. You know what I'm saying? So he is biased towards this as Jack the Ripper. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, but also, guys, like, she was a prostitute, and this guy lived in the area. I mean, they could, and his semen was on this shawl. They could have hooked up way prior to this. I mean, I don't see Jack the Ripper getting any semen on any of the victims. And this is the first time I've seen that. He's only had a few minutes to do this, He cut out the uterus and all that. It's just so bloody. I don't see him getting semen all over the fucking place. I don't know. What? Lauren says, I say you found some random old shawl and put some random semen on it. And also, dude, you've been parading this freaking scarf around with cum stains on it. Let's be honest, it's fucking gross, dude. Like, look what I got. Someone jerked on this. Like, what the fuck? It's been passed from private collectors. That's fucking gross, dude. Don't people have any respect? Can't they just fucking wash it? Holy shit. I don't know, man. I don't know. What do y'all think, man? Thanks everyone for being here. Lauren, Martin, Wolfie, I see you guys. Anyone else here I missed? I've been reading the comments. I really appreciate it. I know it's Friday. Y'all could have been doing any. You could say the same about Clinton and Lewinsky. Dude, so Martin, there's I was going to do this podcast. I'm not going to do it, but there's a theory that came out in like the 1990s. It's like the 54 bodies linked to the Clintons. And literally there are, not saying that they killed, but like the boys on the tracks. And like there's some like apparent affairs that he had that the women just mysteriously died type of shit. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it, man. I know it's Friday. Y'all could have been anywhere else, but I'm glad you're here. And I don't know, man. I miss doing this, so I think it's fun as hell. So, yeah, that's about it. That's all I got, actually. So, I'll see you on the next one. And make sure you put some in the case request. I'm going through that right now. Also, the headlines, too. If you find some headlines that are interesting. This was actually a headline posted by Shram, I think. I think she posted it about this. And that's the first time we've seen it. And, obviously, I personally, I don't want him to be identified. I know it sounds fucked up, but that story was crazy, right? And it's just like all the more crazier that he's identified. I probably wouldn't have pumped out 7 episodes had I known who the killer was. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, do you though? Do you really want John Bonet to be solved? And that's also crazy. They can solve this, but they can't solve John Bonet Ramsey that happened, 30 years ago? That's crazy, right? How is that even possible? And you know what I was thinking about today? Why they haven't solved this yet? they still haven't solved the Missy Beavers one. Y'all seen that freaking video, right? Tell me how they haven't solved that case yet. Anyway. All right. Well, that's all I got. I'm so glad you guys are here. And yeah, so I'll be back. Probably, honestly, maybe Monday. Try to do 2 this week. Yeah, man. I mean, I'm into it. I'm getting back into it, and I love it. So anyway, thanks for being here. And until next time, good night, you lovely.